Hey, hey, I was not going to forget today. I had a long day. So it's like almost 10 p.m. here in Kigali, Rwanda. But I was not going to forget doing this video today. So here we go. We're talking about why freelance writing is the ideal location independent business for me, from my point of view. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Halana Black. I am a freelance writer. I do content marketing for tech companies um, in the US mostly, some in Canada and the UK and a few other places. I've been doing it for 8 years, since 2015. And I started off my business writing blog posts for like $9 a piece. No lie, $9 a piece. These days, I'm making about $500 on the low end to I've been paid as much as $1,500 for a blog post, depending on how complicated it is. And so now I share what I do because I want to be able to help other freelance writers with building a business that they love. They can make as much money as they want and be able to live, travel, be home more with the family, do more with the kids, be a caretaker for other people. I've sort of done all of those things in my freelance writing journey. And I really do believe that this freelance writing is an ideal location independent business. Why? Number one, freelance writing is an in demand skill. If you are a writer, there are people out there who are willing to pay you great money for this particular skill. Now, the skill, it depends on the skills that you use as a writer. When I tell people I'm a writer, they want to tell me all the things that they used to write when they were a kid. All that is fine and wonderful. But what I do for a living, there's all sorts of writing and all of it is relevant. But what I do for a living is I provide content marketing services for large technology companies. That means that as a content marketer, I have to know something about marketing. I have to know how to do digital marketing in particular. I need to learn the language of the internet. I need to be able to understand what are the pieces of content that companies are looking for to be able to sell their product, their services. In my case, it's usually software to other large businesses. So that generally means I work on the business to business side. There's business to business and business to customer. And so, as a person who writes marketing materials for other for technology companies, I'm doing business to business or B2B. You have to learn that skill in particular. It's not so much that you know how to be able to write a sentence clearly, although that does help. It doesn't really mean that because you're also awesome at spelling that you would be great at content marketing. You can actually be, I don't want to say average, but if your skills are sort of lacking in like if you can learn how to improve your sentence structure, your spelling and your grammar and all of that. But if you don't understand how internet marketing works, then you won't be able to get a job at all in this particular area. So it's a particular skill that you need to be able to learn that's always going to be in demand. I don't really care what they say about AI, although AI is important. And even I use AI in what I do. I write for technology companies. So a lot of the technology companies that I write for actually use AI on a regular basis anyway. They use it within their software. So I use AI in my writing as sort of like an assistant. I use it for research. I might use it to help me like reword things like titles, and because I hate that part, like doing titles and captions and all that other crap. But I'm really great at the content and doing content strategy. So you got to learn the language of the internet, and with time, you can sort of figure out how to um, learn how to use AI to be able to go along with it. But writing, content marketing in particular, is an in-demand skill that will be here for many more years to come. Number two, why freelance writing is the ideal location independent business is because I get to learn a lot. You got to be a curious person if you want to be a freelance writer, particularly in content marketing or really any sort of freelance writing. I don't care if you're writing like um, location location. If you're writing lifestyle content for magazines, you got to be a curious person. Why? Because it involves a lot of research. There's all sorts of different types of marketing that you can learn. You can get into all sorts of, as a tech person that writes for technology, you can get into all sorts of technology. I was just talking about AI. So I wrote a project where I was writing about chatbots and how chatbots work and how chatbots help improve the customer service experience um, for e-commerce companies, right? So it's not something that I went to school to learn, but in order for me to be able to write blog posts and ebooks and white papers or anything in that sort of a lane, I have to be curious enough to be able to go and do some research about what these particular products do and why other companies in particular would be interested in purchasing a software that uses chatbots, which means that I got to learn a lot about marketing. When you are working in content marketing, you got to really learn to love marketing. And, I didn't really start off wanting to learn how to do this, but it's become really interesting over the years. And it's really helped me to be able to think about um, in helping other people to start their online businesses. Like it just to be able to think about how to be able to sell things or why people buy certain things or what word or verbiage that people use to be able to sell things. All of that stuff is really fascinating to me now. And I didn't really start off that way when I began this business 8 years ago. I just wanted to sit at home and write stuff and not be bothered. Like for real. That was all I really wanted to do. Um, so when you are a freelance content marketer who has a location independent business, it's an opportunity for you to be able to learn a lot, and you don't really have to go far to be able to learn it. Number three, a freelance content marketing location independent business has very low overhead costs. Very low overhead costs. What I use as a person who travels from country to country with my business, I think Rwanda. I live in Kigali, Rwanda now. So Kigali is, or Rwanda is I think my seventh country that I've been to, and I've always taken my work with me everywhere, every country that I go to, um, because I like to think of myself as working on vacation. My life is one big vacation. Um, I sort of use my freelance writing business as a way to sort of support my lifelong vacation, which is a mindset and a lifestyle that sort of works for what it is that I want to create for my life. But back to what I was saying, having a low location independent business has low overhead costs. So, um, like I have a laptop computer. I always go to places that have internet, so I don't necessarily need to pay extra for the internet. Sometimes in certain places, in certain countries, you might find that the internet might go out, the electricity might go out. So I always have a connection to my phone, on my phone. And so if you have the connection on your phone, you can tether the phone to your computer so that you can continue to use the internet, and you just have to pay for data, which in most countries is really quite cheap. Like for my phone here in Rwanda, I might pay, I don't want to give the wrong price, but maybe $5 to $7 for maybe 5 gigs, 5 megabytes of data. I think that's what it is. And how long does it last? It usually lasts for a few hours, but I really don't have to go that far. I don't never like when the electricity goes out here, it never really goes out for very long. Um, it might go out for like 20 minutes or so, or I might use that when I'm sort of out and about in certain places that may not have public internet. Like some of my favorite places to be able to work from, they may not have internet, or if they do have it, it doesn't work properly. So then I might have to use my own. So I have a computer, I have access to internet. Um, really, I'll use an email. I have an email address that I do pay for through Google. That's what, $6 a month. But you can always use a free Gmail account or whatever it is that you use. That works perfectly fine. I do have a website. But when you're first starting, I always tell people you can just use, your LinkedIn profile. You use free things, particularly when you're first starting and you haven't really gotten that many clients coming in the door yet. There are free or low cost ways to be able to start this particular business. You don't need a whole lot of overhead. So that's number three. So I gave you those three. The question of the day is, why are you interested in starting a freelance writing business? You can write your answer below in the comments. So my number 4 reason for saying that freelance writing is an ideal location independent business is because really I'm a super, super introvert. And when I don't have to, I really wanted a business where I really didn't have to participate in meetings anymore. I don't know about you all, but uh, like a lot of companies, they just have a thing with having to make people gather for reasons that could have just you could have just put this stuff in the email. It really doesn't make sense. I used to spend a lot of time in nonprofit organizations and educational organizations. And a lot of times, the people who run these organizations, instead of just having people do the work, they just want to get together and just like talk about feelings and all sorts of other stuff. And I used to hate that stuff. And so I was just like, I really just want to do something where it would just be less human contact, because it was just too much for my nervous system. I have learned over time, the last 5 years that I've been out of the United States and have spent more time alone, I realized that a lot of the stuff that goes on in a lot of meetings, my nervous system can't take it, and I didn't really have a place to be able to sort of recoup from all that energy that I was wasting sitting in other people's meetings and absorbing other people's energy and listening to their anxieties and their complaints and all sorts of other stuff. But I'm a lot better now. And so I'm able to do more communication with people because I know how to be able to regulate my nervous system. Um, so that's really important. But if you are a person who can't, if you would prefer not to do so many meetings with people, freelance writing um, is the ideal profession for you. I probably meet with people like when I do onboarding for a new client. We may meet in the very beginning one time for less than 30 minutes just to be able to say hello to each other and make sure that that this relationship is what we say it's going to be, and that we are each a real human being who's going to do work for each other. We're going to cooperate. Um, and work towards a particular goal for towards getting this content done together. Um, but really, after that, that's it. It's really all email communication. So if you can communicate via email with people, it's all good. So few, if any, meetings. The next very obvious reason why freelance writing is an ideal location independent is because it's travel friendly. I have always wanted to be able to travel um, while I worked. One of the most depressing things for me, I had always done whenever I had a real job, I said a real job, whenever I had a regular job, a regular 9 to 5 job, I would take a vacation and a few days, a week at the most. I never really had more than just a week of vacation. But I remember feeling so sad getting on the plane to come back home or on the drive to come back home. And a lot of times on the weekends, like when the weekends would come before, you leave work on a Friday, I was already like, I can feel my nervous system, just sort of tensing up in preparation for what I was going to face the following Monday. So I could never really unwind and relax and enjoy my weekend like a normal person. Um, I always wanted to be able to just sort of take my work and sort of stay someplace else. The whole idea of, you know, having with a to sit at a job during hours that really didn't work for me, um, that just didn't sit well with me. Like the hours didn't work for me. And when I would say things like this, people would sort of look at me like I was being entitled. And really, I was just being honest. I was like, why? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like the way my life works now, I sort of stop eating between the hours like 3 to 5. Sometimes I do eat a little later if I just happen to, be hungry. But it never made sense to me that I would leave work at 5 p.m. and then you got to get home and then you got to like unwind from the day. And then, if you're a person that would do like gym or, if you have children and you got to help your kids and you also got to get the dinner on the table. And whatever else it is that you do for your life, like I would do a lot of like schooling and all sort of like, I went to grad school at night and all that other stuff. It just didn't make sense for me for people to be eating so late at night. So now I'm able to eat at like I eat my dinner somewhere between 3 and 5, and that's usually my last meal of the day. Um, but if you have a regular 9 to 5, you really can't do that because there's just no space in it. You've already eaten at lunch, and then you have all this other stuff that you have to do after work because you're not allowed to have any sort of a life during the day. All of your life has been relegated to your employer between the hours of 9 to 5. And sometimes you can tack on an extra hour or two before and or after that particular shift. So it just didn't make any sense. So having a business that you can sort of take with you where you want to go is really important. And also, I wanted to mention this may be a little bit morbid, but it's an honest situation. I remember when my mom was ill. She had cancer. She eventually passed away. And I was living in Washington, D.C., and she was staying at a hospice in New Jersey. And during the 6 months that she was in hospice, I would go back and forth, travel back and forth between my home in DC and where she was staying at in um, New Jersey. And so I didn't have a full-time freelance writing business as of yet, but I was just sort of doing like I would do small jobs here and there, and because I was always trying to think, how can I turn my writing skill into something that I could actually make money out of. And so I really appreciated being able to have um, my laptop and be able to get on the bus, because I had to get on the bus and then get on the train in New York City, and from New York City take another train to New Jersey. And in New Jersey, I would take another bus to where my mom was staying in the hospice. And so it was nice to be able to take some of those jobs, because a lot of times when you're sitting with someone who's in hospice, she was asleep a lot of the time. And so I would just sort of dream about being able to take some of that work with me, how much easier it would have been. And I would have to argue with my employer at the time and have to explain to people why it is that I needed some extra time off, some extra hours off, to be able to take time off from work, to be able to go to travel to see my mother at the end of her life, which didn't make sense to me. She's my mother. Like, why do I even need to explain that supporting my mother on her way out of this world would be an important thing for me to be able to participate in? Like, a person shouldn't even have to explain that, but I did. And after she passed away, I just made it even more clear to me in my mind that I would need to find something that was travel friendly, because we always have these situations. People come in this world and then they leave, and you're going to need some level of flexibility to be able to handle those sorts of situations. So that's really important. A freelance writing business is an ideal location independent business because it's travel friendly. And then finally, why I love freelance writing as a location independent business is because you can really make as much money as you want. Like, you get to decide how much money you want to make. So for those of you who are part-timers, like, you just need something like part-time salary, it's just something that maybe you want to save for retirement. Maybe you want to, send your kids to, some sort of a certain activity, particular school. Maybe you want to put money away for the future. Maybe you want this to be your vacation money. I don't know. Um, Freelance writing, I think, is really just an ideal business for you to be able to make as much or as little money as you possibly need. So I know people who are just doing this as just sort of like a side business thing. They make 20, 30,000 a year, maybe a little less than that, and that's what they need. They are making what they need in just a few hours a week, less than 10 hours a week. Some other people I know, like myself, are making full-time salaries, and so for some people, a good salary is $50,000, and they're fine with that. Other people are making more like 80,000 into sometimes even six figures. You can make as much money as you want. And for people who are making like the 50 to $80,000, you don't even have to work 40 hours. Like, they're making this money working, 25, 30 hours a week without all, the runaround. You can arrange your hours the way that you want. So if you want to work on client work at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., how you coordinate your schedule is completely up to you. And then when or if you decide that you want to be able to make more money, there's ways for you to be able to do that. You can do the agency model. Well, let me say this before I start talking about the agency model. You can take on more work. You can take on as much work as you need, or besides just taking on more work, you can look for the clients that are willing to um, pay you the most money for doing the least amount of work. So that usually means that in the beginning of your freelance writing business, that you need to be able to find your particular sweet spot where you have a high knowledge area and an area where a company is willing to pay you high dollars. That's why I work in the tech industry. And there's all sorts of subspecialties within tech. Um, You don't have to be a specialist in all of them, but you just need to find yours. You just need one or two. And it doesn't have to be tech. There are many others. Like you can work for consulting companies. I know people who do freelance writing for e-learning companies. Um, there's all sorts of ways that you can find companies that are willing to pay you top dollar. And because you already are very familiar with what it is that they need in these companies, it doesn't take you as long as somebody who's new to this particular area. So you want companies who are going to pay you top dollar to write things that are not going to take you a long time to complete. So you can take on more of those clients and still work less hours. You can go the agency route. You can go the agency route and you can just sort of, you hire other people to do, right. You take on, you be the person who finds the clients. You dole out the assignments to your crew of writers. You can have 2 to 3, you can have 30. I've known people to work with. And then they do the writing, and you can hire people to do the editing, or you can do the editing yourself. That's the agency model. Or you can teach people like I do. I am interested in teaching people to be able to spread the knowledge of how to be able to um, learn how to be able to do this so that you can have some freedom for yourself. You don't have to be a broke writer. I don't believe in being a broke writer. It's absolutely ridiculous for you in the year 2023 to be a broke writer when there's so many ways for you to be able to make great money doing writing. And what's really great about this, when you do content marketing, is that you get to choose how much time and energy you want to put into content writing. And then if you want to do other so-called more creative or writing that is more personal to you, and you can do it for paid if you want to be able to write books just to be able to tell your own personal stories, or any other creative endeavors, you still have time to do that. Like, I'm learning how to write personal essays now because I want to be able to memoir write memoirs, and eventually be able to help other people with creating their own memoirs, right? I have time to do that. Like, I have time, it's in my schedule where I write at least 3 days a week for an hour working on my personal essays. And I'm able to do that because I already know what customers I'm working with, what customers I have coming in, what work I always have to do. It's like I'm not guessing here. I also do. I'm teaching myself how to paint and write. One of these days I'm going to be able to call myself an artist, because I sat down the other day and I realized I've been doing artwork for like 3 years and I'm still talking about I'm teaching myself. I should be able to say that I'm an artist by now, because I do have some level of comfort, and then I share it with people, and people are just like they want to buy my stuff, and I'm just like, what? I don't understand what it is that you want to buy. I'm not ready to do that yet, but maybe one day I will be. I need to be able to get to the point where I can say that I am an artist. Um, but I do paint and draw. The drawing I'm less comfortable with, but painting, um, watercolor painting in particular, I feel pretty good about, and I'm always learning and adding on new techniques. But I have time to be able to explore that. Like I do. Um, I have time for spiritual exploration and meditation. I have time to be able to go out and learn how to do long distance running. Like I've explained in other videos, I'm leaving Rwanda to go to Turkey. And in Turkey, I found a marathon that's going to happen during the several weeks of time that I'm going to be there. And I'm not doing the marathon. I'm not quite in that level of shape. But I think I can do, there's like a 5 or 10K. I can't remember which one it is. And so one of the things that I have put on, the things that I want to do every time I travel to a new country, is to be able to participate in some sort of a running activity. And so what I figured out is that there's always some sort of a marathon or something going on in all countries all over the world. And so I'm able to find ways to be able to participate in those things. That never occurred to me when I had a regular job. Never freaking occurred to me. It never occurred to me to be able to stop and make that as part of my life activity. And really, what a great way to be able um, to get to know a country by, you know, participating in some sort of a sport activity with people who are from that country, and presumably probably other travelers. I don't really know how big of an international event that is. It might be super local, it might be international, I don't know. But we'll see. And so I'm looking forward to that sort of a thing. And so that's really all that I had to share today. Why freelance writing is the ideal location independent business. Um, if you want help with your freelance writing business, if you are sick and tired of your particular job and you really want to get out of it, if you want to be able to grow your freelance writing business, you want to be able to improve the clientele that you're working with. If you're tired of writing, doing a bunch of writing for very low pay, I can help you with all those things. You can go to my website, which is in the description, or you can just go to halanablack.com and click on freelance writing coach and set up your appointment there. I'll be happy to set up the appointment with you, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.